Thank you everyone for joining the webinar. We're going to get started momentarily. We're just going to wait a little bit to let everyone come on into the program. So just bear with us. We're going to get started here in one moment. All right, welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us today for a webinar on harnessing the power of AI in your business. This is Brad Yoho from Dave Yoho Associates, and I'm thrilled to be your host today. I'm going to be joined on today's program by three subject matter experts: Sebastian Jimenez from Rilla, Chris Kiefer from Bullion, and Brock Crabtree from Think Unlimited. This complimentary webinar is produced with the support of the sponsors of the upcoming Peak Profit Summit on April 30th through May 2nd in Houston, Texas. During this event, we will be holding a panel session featuring the three speakers you're about to hear. And due to the substantial number of questions on the impact of AI we have received leading up to the event, this webinar was constructed as a sneak preview of what you can expect to hear at the summit. And for those of you who are not aware of the importance of the summit or are still on the fence as to whether you will join us in Houston, we're going to be sharing additional information on how you can receive discounted tickets later on in the program. We're going to get to the content of the program shortly, but first, let's go over a few quick housekeeping items. We're going to start by breaking the ice. We're going to love to hear from each of you. Please take a moment to introduce yourselves now. Go ahead and type in your name if you haven't already. We've seen a few come in, and where you're joining us from today. Shelby from our marketing team will be monitoring this, and if you have any technical issues or need more information about something mentioned during the program, please utilize the chat feature. Also, we received numerous questions which will be addressed during the program, but we encourage you to ask any additional questions you have by utilizing the Q&A functionality. To do so, look for the Q&A box located in your webinar platform, type in your question, and hit send. We'll be monitoring the questions throughout, and while we will not be able to address them all, we will effort to respond to any unanswered questions after the webinar. Let's kick off the program here with a brief poll. What areas of your business are you most interested in understanding more about how to best utilize and implement AI? One of the talking points of today's program is that there are nearly unlimited applications for using AI in your business, but we would like to know what your biggest need is. Take a moment to select one or several of the answers, and we're going to give it a few seconds before we close the poll here. Again, you can select multiple responses to this question. Thank you for providing your feedback. We're going to go ahead and close the poll here momentarily. Again, appreciate your feedback on this question. So, if you could go ahead and bring up the next slide here. There may be many of you on the program today who are relatively new to AI. What is it, and why you should utilize it in your business? Artificial intelligence, or AI, is a branch of computer science that aims to create intelligent machines capable of simulating human-like behavior. AI systems can analyze data, learn from it, and make decisions based on the patterns and insights they discover. These systems are designed to perform tasks that typically require human intelligence. Now, one of the key reasons to use AI is its ability to automate processes and tasks that would otherwise be time-consuming or impossible to perform by humans efficiently. By leveraging AI, businesses can streamline operations, improve productivity, and reduce costs. AI can also enhance decision-making by providing data-driven insights and predictions, helping businesses make more informed choices. Another benefit of AI is to improve customer experiences. It can help businesses personalize their marketing efforts, tailoring messages and offers to individual customers based on their preferences and behaviors. If you could go up and bring up the next slide, please. Now, with any technological advancement, there are opportunities and threats that are associated with it. The following data was pulled from a survey conducted by Forbes Advisor. Let's begin with some of the opportunities. The AI market is expected to reach $407 billion by 2027. AI will have an estimated 21% net increase on the United States GDP by 2030. 64% of businesses expect AI to increase productivity. Research estimates that AI will create 97 million jobs. I love this one because you so often hear about the jobs that are being taken away by AI. So I love this statistic right here. 65% of consumers say they'll still trust businesses who use AI. It's becoming more common. It's becoming more adoptable in the marketplace. If you could go ahead and bring up the next slide, please. But you still need to know the threats. It doesn't mean that you don't use AI. It just means what you need to be aware of. 77% of people in this survey are concerned that AI will cause job loss in the next year. You've heard it before. Nearly a quarter of business owners are concerned about AI affecting website traffic. Over 75% of consumers are concerned about misinformation from AI. 35% of businesses worry about having the technical skills to use AI effectively. Again, this is not to share concerns about using AI. This is to make you aware of what's going on in the marketplace. As with anything, as with any new technology, if you find the right partner to work with you on something as critical as implementing AI in your business, then you're going to be ahead of your competition. And that takes us to the next slide here, where we're going to be bringing up, this is a survey that was conducted by Hatch. And one of the key messages we want to get across to everyone on the webinar is the tremendous competitive advantage that exists by adopting AI in your business. So look at this chart on the screen here. Only 35% of companies who responded indicated that they either had a clear plan associated with implementing AI or they're already using it. This means that 65% of companies either have no plan, or not ready yet, or have no plans to use it in the near future. So with this in mind, shouldn't you be doing everything within your power to implement an effective AI strategy in your business as soon as possible? If you can go up and bring up the next slide, please. Now, at this point, I want to get to the heart of the content here and bring in our three expert speakers into the conversation. I want to welcome Sebastian Jimenez from Rilla, Chris Kiefer from Bouillon, and Brock Crabtree from Think Unlimited. And what we're going to do here is we're going to dive into some of the questions. We received so many questions leading up to this event, plus all the questions that we have as an ongoing client interaction that we have with our clients. So we want to touch on some of those here. The first one, I want to open the floor to everyone we have on the line here today. What resources and expertise are needed to implement AI? It's a very general question. I'll start with you, Brock.
Yeah, thank you, Brad. I think, it's all about mindset just in general. I got a slogan that I want everyone to, as a walk away today, of really what is your mindset around adapting to technologies and AI capabilities, et cetera. And that's to really reestablish exactly what that mindset is. And what I like to go by is, if you're a tech company, regardless of if you're doing bathrooms or if you're doing windows, you're a tech company that happens to install bathrooms. The faster that you realize that and you start making decisions based on that whole new mindset of really where you are in that specific space, the faster that these adaptations will start to come to you with new ways to effectively and efficiently implement different things within your business. So to me, it's all about, having that open mind. To me, the best part is the AI figures everything out for you and provides the strategy. And in terms of resources and expertise, I mean, this is why you have people like myself, Chris, Sebastian. We are the experts in this space that can provide you the resources to have successful launches and lower those acquisition costs and create the efficiencies It's just all about the mindset of that you want to be bought in of, and the new understanding of really where you are as a company, and that's really my forte or partake in it.
I love the concept of mindset on that, Brock. Change is uncomfortable for people. The majority of
Yep.
people, change is very uncomfortable. And if you open your mind to these new technologies and processes, you're going to be doing yourself a wealth of benefit. Sebastian, anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I want to add two things, right? So the question, what resources and expertise are needed to implement AI? The question itself is very important because most people just go into any new technology and say like, oh, the technology, it's just going to create magic and it's going to work. But just asking the question, that question is super important. What resources am I going to need to implement this technology into my business? Main takeaway is like make sure that you're asking that question, because any new technology, any new innovation, when you get the best bang for your buck for any new technology, whether it's SEO or CRM or implementing online marketing or AI, you can't just adopt the technology and think the technology is going to work on its own. You have to build your business around the new technology, because the new technology usually enables a new business framework, a new business model, a new business innovation, right? And the best entrepreneurs, the best contractors out there are the ones that are the best at rebuilding their businesses around the new technology. So like an easy example is SEO, right? Before SEO, and SEO marketing, there was no SEO specialist. That was, there was no agencies like focused on making you the top of the search result, right? The best entrepreneurs, when Google became active back in 2000, or at least in home services, back in 2006, 2007, 2008, they started devoting resources in their companies to hire positions to specifically focus on implementing the technology. Similarly, it happened with CRM, where we literally have IT people or implementation managers or product managers or program managers or CTOs that then started coming into our companies to literally just take charge of implementing this new technology in the business, whether it's CRM or an ERP. The same thing with AI. With Real, I can give you a good example. I see that, our friends from Brookstone are here, Fiona and Amber. Hi. So some of our best customers, so Rilla, we do virtual ride-alongs for outside sales and service, right? And before Rilla, the only way to do a ride along is to have a physical ride along. You would have a manager who goes out with a technician or a sales rep or a design consultant and does a physical ride along. Now you have the opportunity to do a virtual ride along. So people like Brookstone and some of our best customers, what they're doing is they're literally hiring a new position that's called the virtual sales manager or the remote sales trainer, which is somebody that you can hire not necessarily in the same location that your sales team is at. You could be training people in, Ontario and have somebody in Toronto, or you could be training somebody in Virginia and live in New York. You can now hire world-class coaching talent from anywhere in the world and coach them on how to become a virtual sales manager, which is much different than being an in-person sales manager, which is much different than being in an in-person ride-along. So what resources and expertise you need to implement AI, it depends on the solution, right? If it's a CRM, you're going to need a CTO, you're going to need a product manager, if it's something like Real, you're going to need a virtual coach, a virtual trainer, a virtual sales manager. But the main takeaway I would say is just ask that question before you go in and implement any new technology. It's like, what resources beyond the technology am I going to have to implement as a business to implement this technology successfully? Because if you're not asking that question, chances are, no matter how great the technology is, even AI works magic, all these things, right? It's probably not going to go well. So just asking that question, I love that we're asking that question to begin, because that's a really important question before jumping onto any AI technology.
Yeah, that's a great way to frame it up, Sebastian. Any other any response on that, Chris, that you have?
Yeah, I have I love what Sebastian and Brock already said. My perspective with everything, especially when I have talked to home service business owners and executives in home service businesses, is the fear that some of you may or may not have around these new pieces of tech. I feel like my encouragement would be to start playing with them. It's like, I don't know if this is going to work in the chat, but how many people have not, because I'm hoping, but how many people have not used something like ChatGPT or Google's Gemini or Midjourney, some of the more consumer facing products? Just like raise your hand or comment if you have not used that before. Hopefully no one. Anyone have? Say yes. Is anyone listening?
Yeah, we're
The
tracking
reason
all
I
that, by the
asked,
way, Chris.
what's
So,
that?
yeah.
Yeah, we got yes and some
Okay,
thumbs
good.
up.
So there are lots of yeses. Great. So hopefully those of you that have, and if you don't know this, I use ChatGPT or Google Gemini. I kind of encourage our team to use it all the time. Like we probably use it 3, 4, 5 times a day, depending upon what task we're working on. But even with something like this, um, I just wanted to see what would happen if I just threw in like a theoretical person that might own a roofing company. But you can ask ChatGPT, "Hey, I'm a 40-year-old business owner. I own a roofing company. I'm overwhelmed with technology, but I keep hearing about AI. I don't know what my next step should be. What do you recommend?" And it will give you, define your objectives, educate yourself and your team. And so it goes through that. But then the powerful part, that's like a Google search, right? Then the deeper part of AI is that you can now have a conversation. So you could say, well, what if I don't know what my objectives should be? Or what if I don't even know if I have pain and that AI could solve it? What do you do then? And you can ask that question. And so leverage, like, I can't overstate the importance of, yes, you can reach out to experts like us. We've got lots of ideas for you. But a great place to start is with the AI tools. That's the unique thing about AI, is that all other technology improvements in the past have required, some other expert, and AI is going to continue to get easier and easier and easier for an everyday person to leverage and use it. That doesn't mean that you're going to be able to be able to implement it as quickly as an expert would be able to, or experts are going to be able to maybe help you avoid pitfalls that in like the architecture of how you're integrating these systems together. But that's the biggest thing I would say is literally the number one thing you need is curiosity and internet, and you go start, like wetting your palate for what's out there, and then go to those conversations with the experts with a lot more ideas and, places where you might be lacking in your business.
I totally agree with that, Chris, in terms of the experimentation. Because to answer the second part to answer the question was like, what resources do we need to devote? Is you have to devote the resources to implement, but you also have to keep some of your mind share, some of your resources in the company to play, to experiment with the new technology, to explore the curiosity. One of our great customers, Tommy Mello from A1 Garage Door Service, which a lot of people know here, he started his company in 2006, right before the recession. And very early on in the YouTube days, he was one of those people who just took a camera and started making videos for fun. And he would tape himself, doing fixing garage doors, and he was known as the garage door guy. And what started as a game for him, because he just wanted to experiment with the new technology, which was available, which is broadcast yourself YouTube, became one of his main business channels, which is online marketing. And now you see Tommy Mello is a home service expert, and that. But it started with play. You can't, if you're not even comfortable playing around with it when there's like no risk, no business rewarded, then it's going to be much harder when the stakes are real. So absolutely, like if you want to get really, really good at these technologies yourself, because remember, the experts are also very new at this. This just came out like 2022, right? So like if you just get really comfortable with playing with these new technologies, that's going to give you such a leg up when it comes time to actually implement something real in your business. And it actually might become the new business itself. So
100%, 100%. Let's dive a little deeper here. Let's talk about specifics a little bit here about how AI can improve efficiency and productivity in your business. This is a question we got probably 10 times from people who are registering today. Anyone want to take that first?
I can take that and talk about like broadly. So AI comes into, I would say, two parts, right? One is automation and the other one's augmentation, right? And we're seeing a lot more augmentation right now than full automation, right? Full automation is out there, right? And it is coming. But these are the two different parts. The leverage is going to come, the improvements are going to come from you automate an incredibly important business workflow that used to be done by human beings, right? And now it's done by a computer, which is faster, better, more productive, cheaper. That's automation. And then the other one's augmentation. And the augmentation comes, because you use the technology to leverage the natural capabilities of a human being and allow you to do it faster. Most of the people talking in the chat, I asked my AI to write a marketing plan. That's augmentation, really, right? That's not full automation because you still need the prompter, the human being, to come up with the idea, to get the execution, and then play around with the technology. That's most of copywriting, most of email, most of it is still augmentation because it hasn't been fully automated, even if the full automation's coming. And then you try to measure, like, from first principles, you try to reason. Like the way we do it at Rilla is like, okay, very simple. It depends on the workflow, right? It depends on the technology, right? So with Rilla, it's like, okay, you used to do physical ride-alongs. Quantify how many physical ride-alongs I'm able to do in my best of times. How many physical ride-alongs am I able to do in my week? Physical ride-alongs. What's the ROI from when I do a physical ride-along? When I do a physical ride-along, my reps go from like 30% conversion rate to 35 because they learn and they improve. Well, imagine with AI, something like Rilla that could give you like the ability to do many more virtual ride-alongs instead of like, 2 ride-alongs in a day. You do 6 ride-alongs, 7 ride-alongs in like 30 minutes. Then you say, okay, how much better are my reps going to get? But you don't need, the key part about this is to understand the productivity of something that's going to augment you. You don't even need to implement the technology. You just do it manually first. The physical ride-along, if you start, for people that are not even doing physical ride-alongs, the first thing that I always recommend, start doing physical ride-alongs. Before you even launch Rilla, start doing physical ride-alongs so that you see the benefit, the manual benefit. And then that's going to give you, if you just scale it, then it's going to give you an idea of how much the AI is going to help, right? But before you get to the AI, just do it manually. And then do the process, build the process first. And once you have a really good process because you built it manually, then scale it a little bit. We tell people all the time that don't qualify to use Rilla, start recording your conversations. Just record them. And then you hit the bottleneck in that process because, oh my God, I have like 10 technicians or 10 salespeople. I can't review like 500 conversations a month. It's not possible, even if it's recorded. Okay, then transcribe it. There's tools that can transcribe it. And then you can't read the transcript. And then you put the AI that makes it all searchable, makes it all analyzable very quickly, right? But in order to see the improvements with the technology, you don't see the improvement. You see the improvements from the workflow. So build the workflows manually, and that's going to give you an idea of any new technology, how you can actually leverage and what's going to be the impact for the business. You start manual, see the improvements there, and then you scale it. That's my recommendation for any kind of AI technology.
That's great, Sebastian. And we're big believers in there's no company on this program who should not be doing physical ride-alongs.
Absolutely.
There's none. But when you scale your business, that's the way that you incorporate it. You phrased it perfectly. Brock, Chris, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would, or go ahead, Brock, you go first.
I was just going to say, I think we're at a time with AI of very similar to it was, 7, 8, 10 years ago when we were transitioning. And that's why I started off the first answer I provided of just, you have to think of yourself as a tech company that installs bathrooms or installs windows, period. Really, we're in that middle of the transition from going where everyone was back in the day, they were using pen and paper, and then here came the CRM. And some people changed, some rejected change and didn't want anything to do with it, and they were late adapters and stayed flat in terms of their numbers, right? The more people that got involved with the CRM and started to automate their particular type of business, they're the ones that really progressed and left everyone else behind. So I think that's kind of step one in terms of like efficiency or productivity. Another with the thing with AI to increase the efficiency and productivity is really, I mean, it's 2024. You got to know who your customer is, period. End of story, by product and by market. Everyone is different out there of the types of different customers that they're converting, different things against. And that really is what drives, like when Sebastian said, of having people come in to manage like the AI, right? This is a whole other aspect of your business that you could sit here and tell me that you believe that this is your core customer, like they're 35 to 45, they're married, they live in a $350,000 to $500,000 home. I can almost guarantee you that 9 out of 10 times that anybody provides that, they're wrong. So I think that that's really the starting point of how do you go out and find new things in the market with utilizing AI? Well, you got to have that initial benchmark of who is my core customer that I'm transacting against and scheduling against at a high propensity. As well as, now that you know that, okay, well, now I know what a high valued prospect looks like to me. Who's sending more of those than other channels of different lead sources that you're that you're getting. So I think that there's a million ways to skin the cat of once you really unlock that layer and the capabilities that you can add on to your business. But again, it's really getting into that mindset and wanting to dive in and wanting to be a part of the change and not resistant from the top down, in my opinion. Sorry for cutting you off, Chris. Go ahead.
No, you're good. Yeah, adding or focusing on the efficiency and productivity in the business. How does AI improve that? I just pulled this. This was a conversation I had with another AI. He's a business owner, but just is leveraging AI really well. I just dropped it in the chat. This was a conversation of 7 practical use cases of AI in the business. The way I think about everything is just trying to like give real tangible like nuggets that you can go use immediately, like with SOP creation, for example. Creating, I like to think of it like the 10-80-10 rule, if you've heard that. You like think the human thinks of the 10% of take 10% of the time to generate what's the objective that I'm trying to accomplish here. Have AI, do the bulk of the work, and then the human comes back and polishes everything up and makes sure that it looks good, things like that. But at the end of the day, AI it's automating routine tasks. You could use it in business for their, tracking when you're going to need to maintain or do maintenance on different vehicles or things in your equipment. And then increasing or enhancing customer communication, having AI chatbots on your website for answering common questions, things like that. Chatbots, in my opinion, they're getting a lot better. They used to be really annoying, but I think that with some of the new tools that exist, and even like big companies like Zapier just released a new feature where you can make chatbots with Zapier. So at the end of the day, there are many things that it can help with, but I feel like having the very like starting small and trying to tackle, a simple thing. Cause the other big thing I always think about is you want your people in your business doing skilled tasks that are like value added to the customer. The customer isn't paying you for your office manager to copy and paste data or generate invoices. That's just stuff that has to happen. So the more of that you can do with AI, and the more you can have your people actually having conversations with people on the phone, with your customers on the phone, or interacting with more customers, that's where you're going to get more value, by figuring out how do we maximize the time that our people are doing value added tasks and computers are doing more of those just busy work tasks.
Thanks for that, everyone. Brock, I wanted to touch on something that you said, because you talked about personalization. And one of the questions that we got in to this webinar was someone had asked how we can use AI to predict or assign value to prospective customers. And when you talk about personalization, that is really one of the keys right there. So could you touch on that real quickly?
Yeah. I've got a saying. I'm not the one that originated it, but I'm sure everyone's heard it. It's all about clean data. Clean data in is clean data out, period. In order to make any of these changes to become more efficient, you got to have clean data. And really, when you think of like using AI to predict or assign values, like watch a baseball game in today's world. Whenever a new batter comes up to the box, like the defensive players all dynamically shift based on the scouting report in their back pocket, right? The pitcher pulls out his hat. Okay, what should I throw, right? And that's those teams are using information like this with AI to be able to say where they should throw, where should the left fielder be, and really, again, knowing who your core customer is by product and by market is really no different than the baseball example provided, and being able to make decisions quickly and pivot based on real-time data insights, right? So being able to use a predictive algorithm to take the thinking or old school gut feeling out of the equation. And really just relying on those real-time data insights to create the efficiency, effectiveness, and lower acquisition costs really across the board.
And do you think there's ways it can be used to improve customer satisfaction along with that?
100%. Right. It all goes back to what I had just said, right? Let's take example of like you're assigning leads, right? Whoever you send to go represent your company is number one going to either sell the deal or not, right? But the more a bigger piece of the pie or the puzzle in terms of if you're looking at longevity is, yes, of course we want them to sell it, and we want to sell it for maximum value. But if I knew that I could send the right rep to the right lead that I know is going to mesh well with that particular customer because they're 35 or they're 39 years old and they're married and they got 2 young children. He likes baseball and golf, and she likes to run and travel with her friends. They live in a $750,000 home. He's a CFO. She's a stay-at-home wife, right? Like having those type of insights and being able to say, hey, you know what? I want John to go represent my brand. Not only is he going to be the best performer against that lead, but he's also going to provide the best customer interaction with my brand, right? Which further drives reviews and all of those things, along those lines.
Anything you want to add on that, Chris, on the customer satisfaction end?
I would say as far as documenting the customer satisfaction in particular, which is so like, yes, I love what Brock said on winning, but then just getting customers to articulate what they enjoyed or the experiences that they had in reviews is really, really critical. And you can use AI to draft reviews for customers that you send them, that then they are able to much more easily post on your behalf, that have not only the great, things about the experience and how they learned so much and you were really polite and you were on time and you did what you said, but also include all of the SEO keywords into those Google reviews that you need for Google to index and rank your businesses above the competition.
I think what's really neat, some of the things you're sharing, these are such new concepts to people, Brock, some of the things you're sharing, and Chris, some of the things you're sharing even about reviews. We've seen it. I mean, we've been through the demos, so that was a bit of a loaded question, but these types of insights are available for you. And why would you not take advantage of that to get a step up over your competition? Doing very simple things to uncover this type of information, following up with people in a manner that shows that customer satisfaction. These things are critical right now in your business. Sebastian, I wanted to bring you back into the conversation here and ask you a question. I know you and everyone at Rilla does a ton of case studies of the impact of what you do. What are the potential cost savings and ROI we can expect from implementing specific AI solutions? It's a very broad question, but a couple people asked about ROI, cost savings, things like that. Can you provide some context on that?
Yeah, totally. That goes back to the thing I was talking about earlier, that before you implement a new technology, first of all, you need to know what resources you're going to devote, right? You need to have experimentation resources, you have to have implementation resources, and you have to have ROI tracking resources, right? In order for you to have the ROI tracking resources, you have to know what business process or bottleneck you're actually solving with the technology. So for instance, when somebody comes to Rilla on a demo, we always ask them about their ride-along process, their physical ride-along process, right? If people are not even doing a ride-along process, we usually don't even recommend them to use Rilla. We say, hey, start doing ride-alongs and see the productivity there, because it's really hard for a technology to improve something where there's no process established, right? I think it was the CTO of West Shore Home. He said, like, I think last year, it's like, if you implement great technology on a great process, that's awesome, because the technology is going to make that great process move faster, at a larger scale. If you implement great technology with a bad process, that technology is going to make that bad process faster and larger at a larger scale. It's like the old adage of like, if you have an AI bot and you tell it to go and, create, try to manufacture clips, and it destroys humanity because it just like tries to mine all the metal. Like, you don't want a technology that goes in and is implemented with a bad process. That is like the most horrible thing, right? So the way that you establish a really good process such that you can track ROI with a great technology is you start manual, right? If you do ride-along, the way we do it with Rilla is very simple. You know how many ride-alongs you're able to do. A lot of our sales managers, they literally have a ride-along process where the managers are held to account to do like 2 ride-alongs a week, right? 2 physical days of ride-alongs, and you say, okay, I'm going to do ride-alongs on Mondays and Tuesdays. And in those 2 days of ride-alongs, I can do 2 ride-alongs every day, so 4 ride-alongs a week, 16 ride-alongs a month. And each of those days of ride-alongs takes me 6 hours, so that's 12 hours a week, times 4 weeks in the month, that's 48 hours, 16 ride-alongs. Then you use Rilla. First week, ROI becomes very clear because the sales manager can do 5 ride-alongs or 6 or 7 or 10 in 1 hour, right? So instead of doing, we have a user, Sylvia, where the ROI was very simple. She used to do 4 physical ride-alongs every month. She now does 435 virtual ride-alongs with Rilla, where she reviews the conversation, goes to the key points, sees what the rep did right and wrong because it gives them a report. And so now you can measure productivity from the time that it takes you to review a ride-along, from the cost, right? How much gasoline, how much travel. We have managers, one of our managers from Rebath, Mario, he literally manages 2 markets. He manages Arizona, he manages Nevada. So he always has to be flying around. So you measure ROI from the cost savings because now you don't have to fly around because of virtual ride-along, right? You still do the physical ride-along, but now you can do many more virtual ride-alongs. And then you measure the ROI by, at the end of the day, technologies are just tools that can help us decrease our costs or improve our sales, right? And improve our sales is way better, I would say, than reducing costs, because improving sales means you're gaining market share, you're growing the business, and so on and so forth. So how do you measure an improvement in sales? I want everybody to write this down. I want everybody here, if you take one takeaway from this, write this down. In order to measure the ROI of your technology from a sales improvement standpoint, you have to do a difference in difference analysis. We do this with all of our customers. Difference in difference analysis. When you go to the Rilla website and you see all of those customer stories where they say like 20% improvement, 40% improvement, 30% improvement, right? It's because we've done a difference in difference analysis with them. A difference in difference analysis is a way to do a natural experiment. And the way it works is very simple. You have a new technology like Rilla, like Think Unlimited, like, anything that you want to implement into your business. You give it to some of your people, right? So let's say you have 100 salespeople. Let's say you have 10. Let's say you have 20. You give it to half of them. You say, I'm going to give it to half of my team, and then I'm going to keep the half of the team off of it. With those 2 things, what you have is a natural experiment, because you have a treatment group and you have a control group. What you're going to do is you're going to measure the conversion rates, the KPIs that you want to measure, the conversion rates, NSLI, average ticket. You're going to measure those KPIs for the treatment group, for the group that you gave Rilla or the technology to, and you're going to look before and after. Okay, the people on Rilla were 30% conversion rate and then went up to 40%. Well, that doesn't mean that Rilla was awesome. It could have been any other variable. That's why you use a control group. The control group could have gone up, right, to 35%, from 30 to 35. But then you measure the delta between the 2 groups, and that's how you do an experiment. Every single technology that you bring on, you should do this kind of experiment so that you know exactly if the technology is actually having ROI positivity in your team from a sales improvement, right? The cost savings you can actually track much easier, but from a sales improvement, you have to do this natural experiment with whatever technology. So take a quarter, take a month, take 2 months, whatever long it takes to implement the technology, and then compare the results against a control group. If you're not doing that, then you're just like going from intuition, you're going from gut feel, which you don't want to do. You want to go from data. Is it working or is it not working, right? And so
you have to be able to isolate the change.
Correct.
That's the only way to tell if something's working.
It's if I came out and I said, I have a new medicine that helps, 95% of the people who take my medicine improve their flu symptoms after 3 days. That doesn't mean the medicine worked, because 95% of people, regardless, improve their symptoms with the flu after 3 days of having the flu. The only way you know if the medicine works is you do an experiment. You do a trial. You say, okay, let's give it to this people that have a control group. So have control groups and have treatment groups so that you can see if the technology is actually implementing your processes. And that's how we do it at Rilla. I recommend everybody does this. Difference in difference analysis, best way to do a natural experiment with your sales teams. Ask ChatGPT, how do I do a difference in difference analysis? And it'll tell you.
Thanks for that, Sebastian. I want to bring Chris. That was great, Sebastian. Thank you for that. I want to bring Chris back into the conversation because we got a lot of questions about integration and automation as it pertains to AI. And I know this is something that you specialize in. One of the biggest questions we got was asking, what are some of the best practices for integrating AI into our existing software and systems? What can you share on that topic?
Yeah, the number one thing that you should do every time where you're talking about any technology implementation or augmentation in the business, and I would say 98% of businesses don't do this, or they've never done it, or they did it 5 years ago and they've never updated it, and that is make a process flow chart of or process map of how data and customer information moves through your business. It is unbelievable to me the number of um, ahas that come through in just creating a very simple process. Is it possible? I have this chart. Is it possible, Brad, for me to share this really fast?
Yeah,
Just
go
my
ahead.
screen.
Go ahead.
Wonder if this will work.
You may have to
Um,
let me know if you have any issues and we can grant you access.
okay, can you guys see this?
No.
It says that it's now sharing,
Hold on
but
one second. Hey, Shelby,
Let's go
can you
yeah.
stop sharing for a
Yeah.
second? There we go.
Okay, yeah, we see it.
okay. I was just gonna say, so something like this, I mean, it takes time, but this is like the masterpiece at the end. And when we're working through processes with a client of like, okay, what needs to happen? So over here, we've got things very detailed all the way down to like when a website form is submitted, there's a series of things that need to happen, right? And then over here, we've got our follow-up process for our inbound sales reps that are calling and following up with leads. And every single one of those has a series of actions. But when you have your process mapped out, I love was it Sebastian or Brock that said the good process versus bad process and implement
I
AI
said
with
that.
it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's like
Sebastian.
I say that all the time. It's like if you have a bad business and you add technology, we'll just help you go out of business faster.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
if
yeah.
you have a good business and good processes and people in place, and that requires documenting this. Like computers, they think in ones and zeros. It's yes or no, this or that, and that's it. So like every one of these diamonds is like a logic box. It's like, does the customer already exist? Yes, it does. Okay, we're going to update it. Does it not exist? Okay, we're going to create a new contact. It's like that level of granularity needs to be mapped before. And again, I guess I would say some of you, if you're like me and you love challenges, when I say you have to do this before, I'm not saying that you can't find some success by not doing this. But what happens when people just start implementing technology without a plan, it's the exact same thing that would happen if Sebastian said, "Hey, Chris, you know how to frame houses. Could you come put a 2x4 studded wall right here?" And I'd say, "Yeah," and I just do that. And then he's like, "Okay, then put one here too," and I do that. And then he says, "Put one here," and I do that. And then all of a sudden, we've got a couple walls up. And then he's like, "All right, now we need to put on the second story." And I was like, "Oh, sorry, Sebastian. I didn't know you were building a second story. There's no way this is going to support a second story."
Yeah.
Not to mention, I didn't even build a foundation. I just built this on the dirt because you didn't say you wanted to, like that level of insanity is what happens when you just start taking tech and throwing it into your business
Yeah.
because you didn't have a blueprint. So it's like you're building your house and then everything's drywalled and finished and you haven't put any wiring in for light fixtures. That's like what happens without this. When you have a plan of like how, and again, I love Sebastian, the other point you made of just doing things manually. A lot of times I think people they have a pain and you want to just jump to technology because it's the silver bullet that's going to fix everything. Technology does not scale businesses. People and processes scale businesses. Technology just reduces friction. So just like if I take away the friction, and you have a bad business, then it spins out of control faster. If I take away the friction and you've got a good processes and good people and management and all the structures in place, now you're a rocket ship and you take off. But this, I would say, is probably the most impactful thing. I love Miro. It's free, especially if you have a small enough number of users, but it's a very inexpensive tool. It's like a just drag and drop interface. But that's my number one piece of advice. And I can't even remember if that was a specific question you asked me, Brad,
No,
but
that's
it.
great, Chris. I do want to ask a follow-up, and just please stick around here. I know we're already at 2:45. We're going to go a little bit over, but just please stick around for a little bit longer. Know that everyone is really engaged. We're getting great questions. What would you say? Because I know there's a lot of people who fit kind of this motif, Chris, for people whose eyes start to glaze over when they look at what you just showed on the screen.
um, I mean, I would say if you maybe I should have shared. Sorry, Shelby, I'm
No,
gonna do this one more
I think
time.
I'm just saying,
No,
I'm saying
I
like
would
not
say
everyone has that ability to kind of see that workflow in their head when you show it like that. It's almost like a snap for someone like me. I can see it and see how everything connects, but not everyone may have that ability. So what would you
Yeah.
recommend for someone like that?
And what I would say is start small. So what I showed you is an entire business operation on paper. That's overwhelming. But if you'd zoom into any one of those pieces, it's like, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. And yes, I would say, I mean, I think there's maybe another question or answer you're hoping for, which is there are people that can help you do this. But I
Yeah.
also want to encourage people to you don't have to solve your entire thing in a meeting. It's like, number one is let's talk about our inbound leads. So you put boxes for what is every single place that a lead comes from, and then what happens. And it's like having people in your business just document like when a lead comes in from Facebook, what do you do with it? And you put another box for I create a contact here, or I open up a record here, or I text the customer. Like that's where it starts. But as far as not everybody loves making process maps and gets excited about it. And so you probably shouldn't take that task on if you're in like what you're describing, Brad. But I would say to me, anything that looks overly complex, it's because you're trying to tackle too much at once. Zoom in on all right, let's talk about this particular issue that we're having here and then map it out. The last thing I would say though is this is why the mapping is so critical. If you go through mapping out your leads and then you implement technology for it and get software for that, and you solve that entire thing in a silo, and you haven't taken into consideration the needs that sales has or finance has or production has in optimizing their aspects of the business, that can be a pitfall that people often see themselves in, because they mapping out the process by silos is step one. But you don't want to start solving until you've mapped out the processes in every silo, because otherwise you end up optimizing and minimizing the data entry in your marketing department at the cost of making every single finance billing 10 times harder, if that makes sense.
Huge, Chris. And that's why it's so important to have these constant meetings about things like this. Not everyone on your team has to understand how all of this works, but everyone has to be on the same page and understand what's happening. And I love what you talk about there about breaking something into bite-sized pieces, because it aligns with what we teach from a sales perspective. So, small sections to perfection. Don't become overwhelmed by the big picture. Break things up into more digestible chunks, and you're going to learn it much faster. You're going to become more comfortable with it much quicker. I want to ask, I know, listen, we've gone a little bit over, but I want to ask a rapid fire question here, because I think we want to touch on this a little bit, because there are some people I know who've expressed concerns about using AI in their business. We touched on this a little bit. What do you see as kind of the biggest risks and challenges right now? And you may say there aren't any, but I want to hear from you. What do you see as the biggest risks and challenges for people on this webinar today? Rapid fire. Just want to hear your responses on that.
The biggest risk and challenge in implementing AI is people not being willing to learn from their failures. AI is an insanely new technology, and it's like, so anybody who's using AI right now, we are all early adopters of this new technology. This literally just happened in 2022. It's a new thing. ChatGPT, all these large language models, they're like a recent phenomenon. So everybody's like an early adopter, especially in the home improvement industry. We're all like having to tackle with how do we use these technologies? How do we incorporate it? So we're all learning together. And I'll just give you like a quick story on this, like which talks about how Chris and Brad, what you guys were saying. We had a customer down in Texas. They implemented one of these like AI automated call centers. You call in, and it's not a human being who responds. It's literally a call center agent that sounds like a human being. It answers the call. It literally says, hello, Ms. Homeowner. How can I help you today?" And it's an AI talking. And they literally started out with all of their, like, they literally just said, "Okay, I hate my call center. I'm going to just automate my entire call center from day to night." Boom, automate the call center. Disaster. The AI was doing its job. It was answering the calls, and it was booking meetings with homeowners, what it was supposed to do. One thing they forgot is that the AI was not connected to the dispatch software. So when the AI said, "Sure, Ms. Homeowner, we can be there tomorrow at 5 p.m. We can be there tomorrow at 12:30. You're like, "Great." There was no appointment booked. Next day, like we were talking about, bad business process with great technology just makes it much faster.
That's a true
Oh
horror
my
story,
God.
Sebastian. That's a true horror story.
They
I
literally got
cannot
so
imagine
many
how much
calls.
business they lost because of that.
Like people saying like, "What the hell is wrong with you? What the hell?" Like blah, 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 calling, nobody showed up. The owner, because they were an early adopter, they tackled that failure. And what did they do? Instead of just like saying, "I'm never going to use this technology again," they dealt with it. They shut it down, but they said, "Okay, let's start smaller, bite-sized pieces. Instead of implementing it around our entire call center, let's do it in a less risky way. Let's do it for our 24-hour service, which we don't even like right now. It's not even a good service, which is like less than 1% of our calls. Let's implement it there small." They learn from it. They learn to not tell the homeowner that we booked the appointment. We said, "We're going to confirm with you tomorrow," right? So that the human being could come and intervene. They built that process, and then they automated the 24-hour service. Now they're automating their follow-up calls or cancellation calls, going from small, minimum viable scale. But they first had to learn from that failure, because there is going to be failure. There is going to be failure. And if you assume that it's not going to be failure, it's all going to be perfect, you're just setting yourself up for real failure, long-term failure, because there is going to be failure. So, and the best way to deal with that is by starting small, failing small with low risk, low cost, and then once you figure out all the bugs and all the kinks, then you scale it from there. So, biggest risk, not knowing how to deal with failure, and the best way to deal with that is by starting small. Yeah.
Brock, Chris, any thoughts on that?
Risk challenges. I mean, a big risk is, algorithmic bias based on bad data, right? Again, I'm going to say it like I did earlier: clean data in is clean data out. Additionally, with risk and challenges, and Sebastian touched on it briefly, it's very important, if you're going to be part of the change and want to adapt to new technologies, the leaders of the different divisions have to be bought in. Right? This is pushed from the top down. Whether you're the VP of sales, or you're the CEO, or you're the director of the call center, right? Everyone collectively works as one boat that's continuously going across the water. Depending on how many of those key components work together, that's dependent on, or that's going to basically push how fast that boat can go, right? If there's one rudder that's or one department or division that's holding that back, right? Those are your the sinkholes in the ship, right? And that's what's creating the bad process. So I think it's really, again, from the top down of just, do you want to be part of the change and the solution, and to provide the effectiveness and efficiencies within the business, or do you want to be part of the problem? And are you one of the individuals that don't want to implement a CRM 8-10 years ago, right? And then you did it way too late, and you stayed flat for 3 or 4 additional years. That's really, or if you're still in business, to me, those are the biggest risks and challenges.
Yeah, I'll end with the statement here, and this is a good setup for the upcoming event. But in 3 years, there's going to be 2 types of businesses: those that are able to and can implement AI and technology, and those that are going out of business because they aren't able to. And the can or can't is the key there. The things that are going to enable people to be able to. I actually agree with Brock. It's clean data, and there's definition of what clean data is, which we'll talk about later. But if your business is not, if the data inside your business is not clean, you can't take advantage of all this stuff. So that's a huge risk, in my opinion, for businesses that are listening. It's like, and if you don't know if you have clean data, there's some, worksheets and processes that you can go through to evaluate where you have hotspots or kind of danger points inside the business. But if you have clean data, you are set up and you have the opportunity in front of you to implement tech. But I feel like that's not as big of like getting to a place where you can choose to implement technology is a much bigger risk than like which technology should I implement, because there's going to be a lot, there already is a lot, there's going to be a lot more developed, but there's a lot of businesses that aren't even going to have the option to implement tech because their data is not clean and computers can't work with dirty data.
Excellent way to wrap up the interview portion of this, Chris. Invest in your education, just like you invested in the time to join us here today. Don't leave just yet, but I want to take a moment to thank Sebastian, Chris, and Brock for the time they spent with us here today. And in our opinion, again, these are the three leading experts on the subject of AI in our industry. I want to also say that we've received a ton of questions. We're going to be addressing these in a follow-up email to all attendees of the webinar. However, if you've enjoyed what you've heard, they're going to be expounding on this content at the 2024 Peak Profit Summit in Houston, Texas, on April 30th through May 2nd. This is a program, again, that's presented by Dave Yoho Associates. And if you're an owner, an executive, or manager in our industry, you won't want to miss this program. It's specifically designed to combat the challenges you will face in your business this year. There's going to be over 15 expert business owners, executives, and managers presenting powerful case studies, systematic strategies, and providing detailed answers to your most pressing questions. Some of the sessions we're going to be covering, including navigating the funnel, a deep dive into lead efficiency, developing, training, and retaining multi-million-dollar salespeople, going from good to great in sales management. There's also going to be a panel of experts providing direction on how to sell your business, even if this is a goal that is several years away. You're also going to hear from one of the true legends of our industry, David Moore, the CEO of Moore Holdings, which invests in and manages a variety of private companies. He's the CEO of Renewal by Andersen replacement window businesses, 7 of them, and he's also the part owner of the Atlanta Hawks. David is going to share his expertise and insights regarding the current landscape and future prospects of the industry. And you're going to have the opportunity again to speak with each of the individuals who are on the program today. Rilla, Bullion, and Think Unlimited, who Brock, Sebastian, and Chris represent, are all sponsors of the event. So you're going to have the opportunity to meet with them in person to learn more about how they can help you, the specific types of services they provide to help customers in this industry. If you're ready to move forward with registration for the Peak Profit Summit, just look at the screen. We have a special for all attendees of the webinar. You can save $200 per ticket with the promo code SUMMIT. That's just the word SUMMIT, SUMMIT, all lowercase. All you have to do is visit hipsummit.com, HIPsummit.com, click on any of the registration buttons, enter your credit card information, and apply the promo code SUMMIT. And the amount of tickets you order will go down to $199 each. So tying in with this, let's launch a brief poll here. 1 second. If you're planning to attend the summit or would like more information, please indicate so by responding to the poll that appears on the screen. You may also already be registered for the summit, so you can indicate this as well. Again, you have the opportunity to meet with experts like Brock, Sebastian, and Chris at the event. And tickets, which are regularly $399 each, are only $199 each for attendees of today's webinar. There is no limit to how many tickets you can receive with this offer. So just going to leave it up for one more brief moment, then we're going to go ahead and close the poll. Go ahead and get in your question really quickly if you're still on the line with us. All right, thank you. So as a reminder, again, we're going to be sending out that those responses to the questions and an early look that we have at least 25, 30 questions. So we'll be getting a follow-up there. If you have a last minute question, feel free to go ahead and submit it now. We'll track it. We'll keep track of all the questions, and we'll send out responses to those in a follow-up. Any last minute statements, Brock, Sebastian, Chris, before we sign off here?
No more statements till we're speaking there in Houston. The rest
Come-
is
Come to the
hush.
summit and I'll talk more there.
Yeah.
Oh.
There you go.
Sign up.
All right, everyone. Really, again, appreciate it. Again, thanks everyone for investing 45 minutes of your valuable time to join us today. We hope to see you and your team in Houston at the summit. Take care. Signing off for now. This is Brad Yoho from Dave Yoho Associates. We'll talk to you soon. Bye now.
Thank you,
y'all.
Brad.
Bye.